3.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I am the gaming correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic and movie critic.
Indeed.
So, what we're going to do today is part 2 of our conversation about good and bad endings in movies. And so, last time we talked about the good movies with the bad endings.
Yes.
And this time we're doing the opposite. The bad movies with the good endings. The redeeming ending.
Yes.
Guess I might as well start.
Sure. Go ahead. What's your number 3?
Alright, my number 3 pick is Monte Carlo, 2011 movie. Family film, I guess.
Okay.
Tween film.
Yeah.
Stars Selena Gomez and a bunch of people. She's the only one I remember. There's a guy from Glee. Who cares?
Okay.
And she plays 2 roles, which is why she's twice as memorable, I guess. I don't know. Where she's this poor American girl who wanted to see the world, never got to, accumulated a lot of money, and got to go to France.
Good for her.
And then in France, she doesn't get the trip she wanted. You know, she took a tour, and it's a really lousy tour. Like the sort of tour that goes like, let's do the Louvre in 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those tours. And then sort of went like, I'm going to go off tour, and her friends go off tour, and she ends up getting mistaken for royalty, a heiress, in Monte Carlo. That's where the title comes from.
Makes sense.
You know, really cliched stuff. Not particularly interesting. There's some good parts in it, like the tour is hilarious. Like the idea of the tour, the 20-minute tour, and the way that the movie criticizes this type of traveling is like, come on, you're not traveling if you're doing this.
Yeah.
I agree full-heartedly with that scene.
Indeed.
But, you know, otherwise, you know, it's a mistaken identity movie. Who cares?
Yeah, I've heard that story hundreds of times before.
Yeah, it was boring. It was sort of like twee. And I hate to say it, but Selena Gomez, she was pretty good as the underdog girl who's never traveled before. Although, the drama, you know, she's like, I'm 18 and I've saved this money since I'm 16 working as a waitress and you won't let me go? My parents, you're so mean. I'm like, you're 18, you're going to get another chance. Shut up.
Yeah.
Save that money for college. But, so it wasn't super exciting, but then the ending came. And the ending, it's not like the surprise ending or anything. It's just, its heart is in the right place. Because what it is, the ending shows all of these girls, when they grow up, getting a second chance at traveling, but this time doing it right. Where one sort of stopped trying to be a socialite and being more than she is and travels with the man she loves and has a very modest life. One sort of goes off into adventure because she was the uptight one, just experiences the world for real. And she goes to Bolivia and does volunteer work over there. And it's all framed in the idea of like, okay, look, kids, you want to travel, you see the world, that's fine. But what you want to do is be interested in the world, not interested in saying that you've seen the world.
Indeed. Yeah.
And that's the big lesson of the movie. And I was watching this and I'm going like, well, now, even though it's kind of twee and boring, I kind of want to show this movie to my kid because it teaches them how to view the world properly. How to be interested and engaged in the world in a productive sense, which most movies don't. Certainly not movies aimed at teenagers.
Good point.
You know, how many teenage movies goes like, I'm going to study in Paris. No, I love you. Don't. Okay, I'm going to stay with you. Big music as if that's a celebration. Thank you for ruining that girl's life. Like, you know, this movie takes the opposite tact. I love that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Not going to watch it, but that's still interesting.
No. I don't think any adult should. But if you have a kid, suddenly this movie went like, actually, that's sort of a small gem, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
What's your number 3 pick?
Mine is an episode of South Park. Before I describe it, though, I have to describe a little bit about South Park. Every episode has one good joke, and they build the episode around one joke.
Yes.
That's about it. Sometimes the joke comes in the middle, sometimes at the beginning, but as soon as you see that one joke, you can switch channels.
Well, the good episodes build up to that joke,
so
that joke comes at the end, and the bad ones start the joke as the concept and then just sort of run it to the ground.
Exactly. But there's one episode where Token is tired of being the only rich guy in town. He also happens to be black. So he invites all those rich people to come and live in South Park as well. And they also all kind of happen to be black as well. But all the poor folks are kind of, they don't want all those rich folks around, so they want to have them leave. So they dress up as ghosts to scare them. Of course, you can see where it's going. And they burn like lowercase t's on their lawns for time to leave.
Yes.
I thought the funny joke was, the black guy, he looks and is like, T for time to leave. And he gets it automatically. And I thought, okay, that's the joke of the episode. And I had no more expectations whatsoever until the end when finally all the rich people leave. And like the episode ends with Garrison says, well, at least we got rid of all those and it just stops right there before he finishes the word. That had me laughing for like a minute afterwards. I was not expecting that at all because, again, you expect the joke to be like the lowercase t. It's like, oh, that was pretty funny. Okay, that was our joke of the episode. And then like expectations go down because this episode goes like, it gets really, really boring. But then all of a sudden he ends with that. And that was like great ending to an episode that was like really going downhill afterwards.
Yeah, no, I agree, because the joke of that episode seems to be that we're going to do all these racist things, but completely innocently.
Yeah.
And it pays off, that joke. At the end, the rich family leaves, and the poor white folk are going like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And then Garrison goes like, oh, no, I knew I was being a racist.
I mean, that was really surprising. That was like one of the best, if not the best episode just for that. It really had, okay, it was funny in the middle, now it's just getting more and more boring. Okay, all right, fine. Typical South Park, and ends like that. Super high note. Kudos.
Yeah. Actually, I have a couple of like really memorable episodes of South Park in my mind, and I find that they follow that pattern. Where, because again, as you mentioned, South Park has one central joke per episode. That's really what they do. But they sort of like add that little moment at the end. It's my favorite episode is actually the Christian rock episode, where the joke is that Cartman has figured out the Christian rock formula as taking any love song and replacing all the lust parts with Jesus parts.
Yeah.
And it gets really, really funny, and it builds up, and then it sort of blows up right at the right moment where you're like, okay, the episode's over, and then it goes on for 5 or 10 more minutes as South Park episodes tend to go. And then they have that moment where his friends who followed him along, including poor little innocent Butters, sort of acknowledge that Cartman's a prick, which they never do usually.
Yeah.
And then one of them farts in his face. And says, "Fuck you, Cartman." And it's funny again. It's like it's the same model where it's like they run the joke to the ground and lead it to its logical conclusion, and then add just this one little button of self-awareness.
I know. But you really have to find those episodes because they're like a dime a dozen. And if you don't have that little ending there, it's just so painful to watch. You watch in the end, it's like, okay, that was that. And, really, really annoying.
Yeah, and when you don't like the central joke, it's just painful.
Yeah, that too.
Like the one with Oprah's vagina or something like that. Oh my god. Oh my god. Would not end.
Yes. That was horrible. Anyways, after that remark about Oprah, what's your number 2?
My number 2 pick is a 1990 movie.
Wow.
Yes. Harrison Ford in Presumed Innocent.
Okay.
For those of you who haven't seen it, this is a classic legal thriller where you have a lawyer, a woman with whom he's had an affair and who is his boss, I believe, gets killed in the middle of a big conspiracy type case, no less. And he's on trial for her murder, and he insists that he didn't do it. And, in the 90s, those movies, there were so many.
Yeah.
And this one's sort of average in the way it moves along. It's a little bit slowish and sluggish. It was sort of like, okay, well, another movie of these kinds, whatever. Until they reveal who the killer actually is. And the solution to that is so elegant, so perfect, and so fitting. The movie's called Presumed Innocent. And then once they reveal who it is, you go like, yes, I did presume this person was innocent, even though I had no reason to. It was brilliant.
Nice. And it makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the most elegant solution to the problem.
It's not some roundabout way of, it was his best friend because, why? It makes no sense, because that little reveal at the end there that, 5 minutes before the ending is like, oh yeah, that part. I'm guessing it makes a lot of sense and it fits greatly.
Not only does it make a lot of sense, it is the thing that makes the most sense. Out of all the theories presented in the thing that they never talk about and then turns out to be what it is, you're like, yeah.
Nice.
No, I highly recommend it to anyone. It's like, it's a brilliant little police story that way.
Cool.
All right, so what's your... Because I don't want to spoil who it is. So
yeah,
let's
of course
move
not.
along.
Yeah.
Your number 2 pick for Bad Movie, Good Ending?
Well, my number 2, unfortunately I'm going to have to spoil it a little bit at the ending. But it's a movie called Waiting, which I was forced to watch by my friends. And actually, this one I'm happy they did. It's a movie about, people working in the restaurant industries and, as soon as I heard that, I knew it was like all the gross jokes about, you do gross stuff with the food and then you serve it to the customer you don't like and stuff like that and people acting crazy. And for the most part, it was that. But then there was this new kid that's trained in the restaurant by Ryan Reynolds that trains him. And every time the new kid tried to even say something, he gets interrupted by either Ryan Reynolds or somebody else. So he cannot say one word. And also, like, a parallel plot, like, the guy that he's a Mac, he's a PC, I forgot
Justin Long.
Yeah, the Mac actor. He's like, in a rut, and he wonders what he has to do. Okay, should he leave the restaurant or not? You think that's the main plot, but then, at the end of the movie, when they ask the new kid, how was your day? And he's about to answer, and somebody interrupts him again. He just snaps, and he goes on a 5-minute yelling spree at everybody that works in the restaurant. And that was the funniest thing ever. He yells at everybody. At one point, he just looks at the guy because he had problems around you. No, that's too easy. And he goes to the next person. It's like the super angry rant. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I had to sit through an hour and a half of crummy movie for that. But just for that, you're like, wow, this is hilarious. It's totally worth it. Throughout the whole movie, it's about joke. Oh, man, this customer's annoying. Let's drop his stick on the floor. And then... oh, it's the 5-second rule, ha ha ha. And you're like, okay, this is... I eat at restaurants. I don't need to see this. Seriously.
Yeah, they make a lot of waiting comedies. Like, they make a lot of restaurant comedies, and it's always the same slapstick. They never move away from the what goes on behind the kitchen is that the waiter doesn't like you and spits in your food. Yuck, 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 yuck. And it's like, new joke, please,
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, just that blow up at the end there. It's like, wow, spectacular. I would rewatch this movie now, just for that.
Quick question for you. Is it that the blow up alone is funny, or does the build up to the blow up really help?
It really helps because really every time he's about to say something, he gets interrupted, and also he bitches at everybody, but those people have problems that you see as a person. You're like, come on, there's an obvious solution to this, Stop thinking about just yourself. You look at the big picture and you're like, when he tells the guy that, doesn't know what to do, is like, you don't know what to do. You're like, so what? So does everybody else. Join the army. And you just move to the next. You're like, wow, thank you. And then we go to your number 1 pick.
My number 1 pick for Bad Movie, Good Ending. I am going international.
Really?
Yes, a Thai movie from 2004. It is called Shutter. They made an American remake with Joshua Jackson in it, which is it's a movie. Okay. But the original Thai movie, horror movie, sort of like, since The Grudge, there's so many of these Asian movies that are based around a ghoul that terrifies people and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those. And I was watching it in the theaters and going like, well, I've seen this like a gazillion times at this point, Like, I've read the exact same subtitles almost,
Easy jump for subtitlers is just, copy, paste.
Yeah, exactly. And the hero's not quite sympathetic, because in this movie, the hero's kind of a douche who may or may not have raped a girl and whatnot.
Okay.
Maybe the ghost that's haunting him or not. I don't want to reveal any of those aspects. But then, those movies always have the ending where they think they've solved the problem and then the ghost shows up again because it was somewhere else or wherever. That movie has that too. But here's the thing. Where that ghost turns out to have been all this time is messed up. Like, when it happened and where he figures out the ghost's true location, my jaw dropped and it was like, that is messed up. That is terrifying. It is really, really clever.
So yeah, like your example and my example and my previous example, you think anything they could have done to like change the movie a little bit, jazz it up so that you're not so bored in the first hour and a half until the last reveal? I mean, for me, for like waiting, they could have maybe found some original waiting jokes, which they tried to do, but they really failed, you know. But if, for your case, you know, what could have done differently, you think?
Well, I think the American remake actually takes a step in the right direction, which is to make the characters a little bit more sympathetic. Now, since we're talking about a possible rapist, that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, granted, Sean Connery did it with James Bond, but that's what he does to Pussy Galore.
Good point.
What the American remake did that's quite clever is that they introduced the guy's girlfriend as almost a point of view character, where she's sort of a much more sympathetic, active, proactive character who's discovering while he's being haunted that he might be haunted because he's a rapist, and she's like, maybe I should dump your ass, you son of a bitch, you know?
Interesting, what I mean? Yeah.
And so already you're a little bit more invested because you care about her. You don't want her to get hurt, him, whatever, but you know. And they screwed up the way they staged the ending in the American remake, unfortunately. But the stuff leading up to it is actually superior to the original movie.
Okay.
So I think in both Waiting and in Shudder, I think the idea is perhaps make more sympathetic characters so that you can feel comfortable laughing with them instead of groaning at them.
Indeed. Yeah.
And in the case of Shudder, sort of, I give a crap whether or not he gets killed by the ghost.
That's a good point.
All right, what is your number one pick for bad entertainment, good ending?
All right. Before I go there, you have to understand there are many reasons to watch a TV show. Maybe you like the characters, like House. Or maybe you like the humor. Maybe you like the stories.
Maybe you think Jessica Alba is hot, and despite the fact that James Cameron isn't really good at making a good TV show.
Exactly. And sometimes you watch a show because it's a massive train wreck, and you want to see the train wreck every week.
The reason why I watched the second season of that Jessica Alba show.
And that's why I watched Enterprise. I mean, the first 2 seasons was awesome with all the jokes of, wouldn't it be cool if we had this technology that's in the later seasons of Star Trek?
Yeah.
Because it's a prequel.
Oh, come on, spoil it. One day maybe we'll have holodecks.
Yes. One day we might have a directive that tells us how to act with other species. And until we have this directive that would be prime to us, I'm going to have to remember we're not here to play God.
Gosh darn, I wish I could teleport to another planet.
Yeah.
Although they eventually
they had teleporter, they just didn't want to use them for people. I was like, photon torpedo, never heard of this. Every episode, you watched it just seeing like, what is the stupid thing they're going to do next. And for the first 2 seasons, that was kind of, enjoyable. It was like, oh man, they went there again. Or it was the Vulcan telling them, don't do this. And the stupid humans is like, they do it anyway. And you're like, yeah, again, the Vulcan was right. It's
despite
like
her terrible acting.
Yes, despite terrible acting. It was like Armageddon, you have this spaceship and the crew is just the biggest idiots on Earth they could find, and they put them in the ship and they shove it into space. Unfortunately, it stopped being a train wreck and just started being bad. Just bad. Like the 3rd season, they have to stop, I think, the Zindi or another species that they know they're going to destroy Earth. So they need to stop them. That the whole season is them trying to stop them. And you're watching that, and it's like, the Next Generation crew would have stopped this in like 2 episodes and they would have moved on. Seriously. They're so stupid and boring. Get on with it. And the last season is even worse because they knew they were getting canceled at this point, so they tried to wrap up loose ends.
Okay.
But not just in their series, in other series.
In other series that, chronologically speaking, haven't happened yet?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, for example, you remember Khan, who's a genetically engineered human from The Wrath of Khan?
Yeah.
You have to link him with Data somehow.
Why?
I don't know, but the person that made those genetically engineered human, his descendant is the one that built Data. Because you have to link the two.
Because, genetics and mechanics go hand in hand?
Yeah, exactly. And the Klingons that didn't have, ridges in the original series because they didn't have the budget.
Yeah.
Well, you have to explain that too. So they linked it with Khan and with Data as well.
Oh, no.
And
it was so much better whenever, the Worf would go like, we don't like to talk about it.
Yeah. And you're watching it as like you're just messing up everything that the previous is. You're like, this is not a fun train wreck anymore. It's just bad.
Right.
And then they did a whole series with like the Vulcans being evil, which doesn't work because Vulcans are not evil. Everybody knows Vulcans aren't evil.
Wait a minute. I've seen the series where Vulcans are evil. It's called Andromeda. It was awesome for 2 seasons.
I know. So yeah, and then somehow they managed to make good episodes. Like 2 good episodes when they're like in the mirror universe where they're evil. They could have totally worked out. They could have been great episodes if they had good actors. They didn't, so they were like average episodes. Like I was watching, where's my train wreck? I want my train wreck. This is completely disappointing.
Between mediocre and average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until you reach the season finale.
Oh.
Where it's like, imagine a bridge with like 5 train tracks and like a bunch of trains going on there, and then the bridge collapses. This is the quality of the train wreck I saw in the finale. It was awesome. I mean, first of all, it's not even an Enterprise episode. It's a Star Trek The Next Generation episode where it's Riker and Troy, and Riker goes to the holodeck to interact, and he runs a program of the Enterprise crew. So it's a Next Generation episode.
What?
Yes.
Did they make it that the whole series was his hologram program?
No, just because he has a dilemma. I'll go back on the dilemma later. And, there was a similar dilemma with the Enterprise crew, so you should go experience it in the holodeck. So it's a holodeck episode, which were never good in Next Generation. So first of all, you have that going. You have a bad Next Generation episode with Riker in the holodeck. He plays a Neelix character. He's the cook of the Enterprise, because Neelix was such a compelling character in Voyager that they had to have Riker play Neelix in Enterprise. A character that was very important that the crew talked to all the time, but was not seen in any previous episodes.
God.
And then, of course, they kill one of the characters in Enterprise for no reason, just for shock value, because why not?
Huh.
And what was the big dilemma? Well, fans of Next Generation might remember there was an episode where Riker, on a previous ship of his, they developed a cloaking device that they were not supposed to develop because there was like this deal with the Romulans, the treaty. You're not supposed to develop cloaking device if you're the Federation. That's part of the treaty. Okay. They went something further and they said we're going to do a phasing so we can go through matter, not just be invisible. And they were still not supposed to develop that, but they did it anyway. And Riker was conflicted. Should I stay? There's my loyalty to my older captain and my loyalty to Picard. What do I do? And that was his dilemma that he went to the holodeck to solve. And he comes back out and is like, all right, I made my decision. I'm going to talk to Picard. And that does not happen in the episode. He only talks to Picard at the end when they have no choice and they need to use the phasing device to get out of a situation. Okay. If that hadn't happened, he would not have talked to Picard at all. So that's not even canon with what hell happens in the Next Generation episode.
Oh, okay. When so they took sort of like an unseen moment from an actual Star Trek The Next Generation episode and sort of filled in the blank.
Yeah.
Riker's perspective.
Yes.
So it's what happens during a commercial break, in other words.
Exactly.
Oh my.
Apparently in this tense situation where they're trying to find that ship with the illegal technology and the Romulans are looking for it too, Riker had time to spend like hours in the holodeck having fun and, interacting with the Enterprise characters to come up with, all right, I'm going to talk to Picard, which he doesn't even do in the episode. So I almost stood up and applauded at the end of the episode. I was like, bravo, bravo.
Because, when you introduce the concept, I always thought well, that's kind of weird and lame. But I guess, now if you're a big Star Trek fan and nobody's an Enterprise fan, but you're a Star Trek fan and you kept on watching, maybe you do want to know what happened to Riker instead of these douchebag characters that nobody cares about. Yeah. But you're telling me they're not even answering that question because they're dealing with an episode we've already seen and they've moved on from a while ago. And what happens in the last show is not even consistent with the episode we've already seen. So I was like, bravo, this train wreck will never be replicated again. This is probably the worst thing and the funniest thing I have ever seen. I gotta give credit for the writers for trying something new, I guess. Wow, you guys did not disappoint. This show is so bad it didn't even warrant his series finale. They did another Next Generation episode. Spectacular. Now, just to be clear for the listeners that we didn't switch lists again. What you're saying is that it is so awful, it reached awesome from the other end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like, that's why I watched the series. I wanted to see, like, funny train wreck moments. Like, how often can they use the, we don't have this technology joke, or, how often can the Vulcans say, I told you so? And, just, bad stuff. But then it just started devolving into, like, this is not even bad entertaining anymore. It's not like you're watching Birdemic or, Battlefield Earth. Yeah, The Room, exactly. This is bad but enjoyable. That was the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. It was just bad. Like, Manos, the Hands of Fate. It was just bad, period. But then again, the last episode went back to, The Room quality of, wow, I've recognized the Enterprise series I loved so much from the first 2 seasons. This is spectacular.
I gotta say, I'm not gonna check that one out.
Oh, it's almost worth it just to see. I mean, they didn't even bother, Riker looks older, his beard is gray. It's like, they didn't even bother making him look like he looked like an Enterprise 2. It was like, whatever, you go in the holodeck, it's fine.
In the original episode, did Riker have his beard?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was black though, it didn't have any gray in it.
Okay. Well, at least he had his beard. Because it would have been funnier if it wasn't even a bearded episode for him.
Oh, that would have been even, yeah, that would have been great.
Alright, on that note, on that slightly ironic note.
Hey, that's what I watched the show for, so.
There you go. If you have any questions, comments you want to share with us, your disappointing or redeeming ending entertainment experience, write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment right below the episode at idiomanic.com. We're also on Facebook. You can leave a comment there, by the way. We're also on Twitter. I hope you're on Twitter, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And until next time, we'll see you in the holodeck. Particularly interesting. There's some good parts in it, like the tour is hilarious. Like the idea of the tour, the 20-minute tour, and the way that the movie criticizes this type of traveling is like, come on, you're not traveling if you're doing this.
Yeah.
I agree full-heartedly with that scene.
Indeed.
But, otherwise, it's a mistaken identity movie. Who cares?
Yeah, I've heard that story hundreds of times before.
Yeah, it was boring. It was sort of like twee. And I hate to say it, but Selena Gomez, she was pretty good as the underdog girl who's never traveled before. Although, the drama, she's like, I'm 18 and I've saved this money since I'm 16 working as a waitress and you won't let me go? My parents, you're so mean. I'm like, you're 18. You're going to get another chance. Shut up.
Yeah.
Save that money for college. But, so it wasn't super exciting. But then the end stars Selena Gomez and a bunch of people. She's the only one I remember. There's a guy from Glee. Who cares? Okay. And she plays 2 roles. Which is why she's twice as memorable, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Where she's this poor American girl who wanted to see the world, never got to, accumulated a lot of money, and got to go to France.
Good for her. And
then in France, she doesn't get the trip she wanted. She took a tour, and it's a really lousy tour. Like the sort of tour that goes like, let's do the Louvre in 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those tours. And then sort of went like, I'm going to go off tour, and her friends go off tour, and she ends up getting mistaken for royalty, a heiress, in Monte Carlo. That's where the title comes from.
Makes sense.
Really cliched stuff. Not boring. I kind of want to show this movie to my kid because it teaches them how to view the world properly, how to be interested and engaged in the world in a productive sense, which most movies don't. Certainly not movies aimed at teenagers.
Good point.
How many teenage movies goes like, I'm going to study in Paris. No, I love you. Don't. Okay, I'm going to stay with you. Big music as if that's a celebration. Thank you for ruining that girl's life. This movie takes the opposite tact. I love that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Not going to watch it, but that's still interesting.
No. I don't think any adult should. But if you have a kid, suddenly this movie went like, actually, that's sort of a small gem,
Yeah, that's interesting.
What's your number 3 pick?
Mine is an episode of South Park. Before I describe it, though, I have to describe a little bit about South Park. Every episode has one good joke, and they build an episode. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I am the gaming correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic and movie critic.
Indeed.
So, what we're going to do today is part 2 of our conversation about good and bad endings in movies. And so last time we talked about the good movies with the bad endings.
Yes.
And this time we're doing the opposite. The bad movies with the good endings. The redeeming ending.
Yes.
Guess I might as well start.
Sure. Go ahead. What's your number 3?
Alright, my number 3 pick is Monte Carlo, 2011 movie. Family film, I guess.
Okay.
Tween film.
Yeah.
The ending came. And the ending, it's not like the surprise ending or anything. It's just, its heart is in the right place. Because what it is, the ending shows all of these girls, when they grow up, getting a second chance at traveling, but this time doing it right. Where one sort of stopped trying to be a socialite and being more than she is and travels with the man she loves and has a very modest life. One sort of goes off into adventure because she was the uptight one, just experiences the world for real. And she goes to Bolivia and does volunteer work over there. And it's all framed in the idea of like, okay, look, kids, you want to travel, you see the world, that's fine. But what you want to do is be interested in the world, not interested in saying that you've seen the world.
Indeed. Yeah.
And that's the big lesson of the movie. And I was watching this and I'm going like, well, now, even though it's kind of twee and